So the Samsung Galaxy S7 was undoubtedly one of the flagship smartphones of 2016. It really defined the year. And it doesn't come as much of a surprise that there are a whole horde of companies that are trying to jump on the bandwagon, this being one of them. So welcome to my full review of the $65 S7 clone. Now just before we start, if you haven't already subscribed, be sure to do that now for an insane upcoming giveaway and some awesome new tech. And if we could hit 800 likes on this video, I'll love you forever. But without further ado, let's go. When I received this package, I was honestly a little bit confused. I was thinking to myself, I don't actually remember ever ordering the S7, what a nice gift. And it took me about 10 minutes before it actually clicked that this was not the S7 smartphone. Everything is incredibly well done. The packaging, the presentation, the way the phone feels in the hand, it's got an incredible build quality. I was comparing it to my S7 Edge, handing it to people on the street, and it was amazing how little difference you can actually tell. It feels solid, the material is aluminium, it's got a lightweight construction, it really does feel incredibly genuine. It gets better, because a lot of these clone phones actually come with very old versions of Android, and then they're just skinned up to look more recent, but this one is actually bundled with Android 6.0.1, even though the listing only said 5.1. Odd. On top of that, they've actually put a ridiculous attention to detail in recreating the TouchWiz OS without actually being TouchWiz. And to be honest, it looks every bit as good or bad as TouchWiz. The animations are all there, the notification bar is there, even the icons have been recreated. Sure, they're not quite as high resolution as perhaps the official ones, but to the untrained eye, you literally can't tell the difference. This phone is designed for somebody who wants to make it at least look like they have the S7. The screen was actually better than I expected. Sure, the contrast, the saturation is a little bit on the faded side, but with a resolution of 720p, for this screen size is actually quite a sharp output. Unfortunately, the viewing angles don't quite hold up, tilting the phone from side to side, and the colours start to become a little bit weird as you get towards the edges, but it's not actually a bad display at all, especially for a clone phone. So then we have the internal components, which is always fun. And here we have the MT6580 and 500 megabytes of RAM, which on paper is not going to blow your mind away, but bear in mind the price at all times because it really is a very cheap phone. Now the MT6580 is actually quite a capable processor, by no means top of the line, but it can actually play 3D games, a lot of 2D and a lot of 2.5D games. It's not gonna beast everything on the market, and some games like Real Racing don't even seem to load up. One thing I noticed which was a bit weird is actually when you put this phone down to a particular task, it does seem to actually perform it quite well, but flicking between them, its multitasking ability is pretty awful. Pretty much everything, as soon as you quit it, just closes, so you have to reopen everything, even the most simple text-based apps. Now unfortunately, this somewhat concerning level of processing power also translates to poorer camera performance. With a 10 megapixel sensor, you'd expect it to be at least fairly capable of capturing a decent level of detail. Unfortunately, that's just not true. Even in the best conditions, it really does not produce very vibrant photos. Exposure is very on and off, you either get the whole scene or nothing at all, and the flash is pretty poor. The aperture is very narrow, so don't expect to get any professional bokeh effects. To be honest, the best way I can describe the camera is it kind of looks how you'd expect a phone's front camera to look, but a bit worse. And having said that, the front camera is actually not too bad. But on the bright side, the shutter time is long enough for you to make a nice cup of tea in between photos. Yeah, it's really not great. Unfortunately, there's not really much good to say about the speaker either. It's mono, it doesn't reach a particularly loud volume, and to be honest, I can squeeze better audio out my microwave. The battery is a bit of a weird one. It's actually got an undisclosed capacity. I couldn't find any app that actually detected it, but it's not great. I mean, you can literally see the battery draining as you're using it. On the bright side, it means it charges quickly, but it also means that you have to really keep a charger with you. Now, to be honest, on paper the storage isn't bad. It's got 32GB inbuilt and then room for another 32 by a micro SD card. But it's almost as if someone was trying to troll you, because when I actually started up the phone, I realized it only had 1GB free. That's just terrible. There's no 4G, but at this price that's a pretty excusable omission. So there we have it guys, that is the $65 Galaxy S7. And to be honest, it's a bit of a mixed bag. In terms of the way it looks and the way it feels and the sort of initial impressions, it could even fool someone in the tech community. But the more you start to use it, the more you realize it really just does not live up to the real deal in any way whatsoever. I really can't say I recommend the phone unless you really want to look like you have the S7. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you next time.